We're good.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the City of Evans City Council meeting for August 2nd, 2021. I'm Brian Rudy, the mayor. I'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Rudy?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Clark?
Here.
Councilmember Spear?
Here.
Councilmember Johnson?
Present.
Councilmember Neal? Councilmember Castle?
Here.
Councilmember Mortensen?
Here.
Thank you. Tonight's a really neat night. We have two proclamations, two of my favorite proclamations that we're going to get to read tonight, so I'm excited about these. We're going to start with proclaiming Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021 as National Night Out in the city of Evans, Colorado. Whereas the National Association of Town Watch held the first National Night Out in 1984 by encouraging neighbors to turn on their porch lights and sit in front of their homes. And whereas this year over 38 million neighbors from 16,000 communities will participate in this event. Whereas National Night Out provides a unique opportunity for the city of Evans to join with thousands of other communities across the nation in promoting cooperative police-community partnerships to keep our neighborhoods safe. Whereas the citizens of the city of Evans play a vital role in the police department through joint crime and drug prevention programs, and whereas police community partnerships and neighborhood safety and awareness are important themes of the National Night Out program, and whereas the city of Evans encourages citizens to organize block parties and other events to bring neighbors together and celebrate this event, and whereas members of the city council and city staff will visit the many celebration sites and meet with our community members to foster positive relationships and dialogue. Therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and the city council of the city of Evans do hereby formally designate Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021 as National Night Out in the city of Evans and encourage all citizens to join with our police department in keeping Evans a great place to live and work and play. In testimony, and play, don't forget that part. In testimony whereof, the mayor of the city of Evans has hereunto subscribed his name and caused the official seal of the city of Evans to be affixed on this, the second day of August 2021. Chief Brandt in the audience. I'm going to give this to our police chief, but I do want to, we're doing it in a safe way. But get out there and enjoy people and enjoy our police department. We have the finest one around. I promise you that. So get out there and say hi to them. Chief Brandt. All right, this next one is very special and has even a little bit more meaning after the year and a half we've gone through in the last months. So I'm very happy to proclaim National Health Center Week 2021. Whereas over 50 health centers have provided high-quality, affordable, comprehensive, primary, and preventive health care in our nation's underserved communities, delivering value to and having a significant impact on America's healthcare system. Whereas the country's largest primary care network, community health centers, are the health care home for over 30 million Americans in over 14,000 communities across the nation. 1 in every 12 people in the United States gets their care in a community health center. Whereas community health centers are the critical element of the healthcare system, serving both rural and urban communities, and often providing the only accessible and dependable source of primary care in their communities. Nationwide, community health centers serve 1 in every 5 residents of rural areas. Whereas every day, community health centers develop new approaches to integrating a wide range of services beyond primary care, including oral health, vision, behavioral health, and pharmacy services to meet the needs and challenges of their. Whereas community health centers nationally employ more than 253,000 people, including physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants and certified nurses, midwives who work as part of multidisciplinary clinical teams designated to treat the whole patient. In the state of Colorado, community health care centers employ over 6,000 people. Whereas community health center model continues to prove an effective means of overcoming barriers in healthcare access, including geography, income, and insurance status, improving healthcare outcomes, and reducing healthcare system costs. Whereas community health centers are on the front lines of emerging healthcare crisis, providing access to care for our nation's veterans, addressing the opioid epidemic, and responding to the public health threats in the wake of natural disasters, including the global coronavirus pandemic. Whereas National Health Center Week offers the opportunity to celebrate America's over 14 locations with over 12,000 service delivery sites, their dedicated staff, board members, patients, and all those responsible for their continued success and growth since the first healthcare center opened their doors more than 50 years ago. Now, therefore, I, Brian Rudy, Mayor for the City of Evans, Colorado, do hereby proclaim August 8th through the 14th, 2021, as National Health Center Week. I encourage everyone to take part in this week by visiting our local health center, Sunrise Community Health, and to help celebrate the important partnership between America's communities, health centers, and the communities they serve. In witness hereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be the affixed seal of the City of Evans this second day of August, 2021. And I know Fatima and anyone else that would like to come up, you guys are all heroes. Thank you for everything you've done. I present this to you. You're welcome to say anything you'd like.
We just want to thank the City of Evans. Sunrise is just so proud to be our largest clinic in the city, and all the support that all of you have given. Many of you come and volunteered at our clinics, and we've given over 51,000 vaccines and continue to give more. So the heavy lifting is not over, and we just appreciate all the City of Evans has to support. Very grateful to be here.
We're so glad you guys are here. You're such a great service for all of our citizens. Thank you for Thank you all for being here.
Yes, thank you.
All right, where's my sheet? Next item on the agenda is audience participation. There's City Council on any item that is not on the agenda this evening. Please come up to the podium, state your name and address. Probably just one at a time. We have time for all of them.
We have maps. Can we hand maps out to you?
Sure, please. You gonna go first? Perfect. What is your name? Thank you, Mara.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mara. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mara. What's your name, sir?
My name is Mark Donahue.
Great, Mark. Where do you live?
I live 3132 39th Avenue.
Thank you. Go ahead.
This is what we're here to speak about. The map on that folks can hand highlights a road that cuts through from 35th Avenue down through Ashcroft Heights and into Tuscany, where it starts to turn, and then the stop sign down there. What we have, the street in question is 35th Avenue. It's 34th Street, and it heads west past Legend Flats, where it curves north and becomes 32nd Street and enters our subdivision. And then it continues on through where it goes on to Tuscany, as stated. The total length of this road is approximately 7/10 of a mile. There are no stop signs, and the 30 and 25-mile-an-hour speed limit signs are not being obeyed. We have excessive speed through this neighborhood. Due to the combined population growth of Ashcroft Heights, Legend Flats, and Tuscany, we have a lot of traffic coming through here, and we have approximately 550 homes in ours. Legend Flats has about 176 apartments. Tuscany is at about 200 plus homes, with another 171 being added of apartments to the Wild Horse that is currently under construction. The traffic will only increase. We've had 3 street signs and 1 street light have been hit just in the last 6 months.
due to excessive speeds. There have been other accidents that have resulted in property damage during the last few years, and these are the only ones we have seen. What we would like to do is not stop the traffic, but to slow the traffic down. Possibly, we've tried the speed limit signs, a temporary speed indicator sign that flashes the speed, the police present. None of this has worked. These people are going through 35, 40, 45, possibly 50 miles an hour at times. And what I would like to see are speed humps that are designed to slow traffic down to a reasonable speed of approximately 25 to 30 miles an hour. About 4 of them through that long section. And hopefully we can get things slowed down because it's getting pretty crazy. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Jim, can you get us some information on, it sounds like we've done the police presence, we've done the speeding sign, and I know there's things that car counts and whatnot need to go into the next step. For any of that, can you get us the information on that street soon? And then can we get your contact information to our city manager, sir, and we can reach out to you on the next steps we're capable of doing?
Yes, Mayor, certainly will have that for the council. We've already spoken with the group, and they're going to meet with Chief Brandt right after this portion of your meeting so that they can actually have follow-up from the police first, but we'll also get that information and whatever action we can take to the council.
Great. Thank you so much. We'll get you that information, sir. Thank you for being here tonight. Sir, your name, please?
My name is John Dusing. I'm Mark and Chris's neighbor at 3136 39th Avenue. I have more of a bird's eye view because my deck overlooks the road. The young lady that handed the maps out is my daughter, one of my daughters. And 18 years ago, I built my forever home there and set roots in Evans. And honestly, this has become a terrible issue. I will not let my kids out in front of my house because there is not a week that goes by where you don't see tire tracks in the rocks. There's a 15-foot section of rocks between the road and the sidewalk. Our street sign's been knocked over. Neighbors' street lights have been knocked over on the other side of the sidewalk, which is 4 feet wide. So that's 20 feet off the roadway. I sit on my porch, and I bought a little speed radar gun. And one night I counted 40 people going in excess of 50 miles an hour down that street, which is a 25 mile an hour zone. It's mismarked. There's one 30 mile an hour sign, 25 mile an hour sign. Every block has a different sign. So something's mixed up in that. But I'm actually at the point of leaving Evans if something can't be done. And I talked to a police officer that was, patrolling there last year and thanked him for being there. And he said, we're just overtaxed. It's hard for us to have resources to be out here. And I understand that, there's everything grabbing at your purse strings, and what I think we're asking for is some solution that might slow traffic down and give, unless you're going to post a policeman there 24 hours a day, it doesn't do any good. And just as an example, at 11:30, I was out on my front porch, and 2 motorcycles were drag racing down the road, and way in excess of 70 miles an hour. And I flashed a picture of them with my cell phone, and it ended up blurry. They turned around, came by, and gave me a one-fingered salute. So, there's just no respect for the people that live on the street. And I feel bad for my kids and my family, and I have the greatest group of neighbors in the world. And I love my house and my neighbors, but it's a terrible situation. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Fernando Miramontes. I've been with the Evans Police Department for 12 years. More importantly, I'm the president of the FOP Lodge 64, which represents 27 of our 30 sworn members that we have. On the behalf of our membership, I want to express our appreciation for you guys and your continued support with the current climate that the police are involved with right now. We appreciate it. It doesn't go unnoticed, and I want to be here to express that on behalf of the membership. So,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sir?
Hello, hi, my name's Mark Hobbiger. I live at 3133 Santa Fe Court, Evans, adjacent to 32nd Street for 19 years plus. We went into there. Buying the home in 2002, you could recognize on a map that there's a kind of a street that goes through our neighborhood residential area that appears to be a feeder into the Ashcroft Heights. At that time, it wasn't connected in off of Cody and some other places, but you could see that. But it's a two-lane road. There's no shoulders, and was posted close to 35th Avenue at 30 miles an hour. Working with Mark Overschmidt a year or so. I said that wrong. I apologize. But more than a year ago, we finally got some mile per hour signs posted on the 32nd Street portion. Now they posted at 25. So we do have a 30 and 25. It's hard to drive 25. I seldom drive 25. I mean, it's hard to be done. But 30 to 35. So living there, I have a deck that's adjacent to the road. Easily 50% of the traffic's 10%, 10 miles an hour or more over. And I'd realistically say 20% is 15 plus. And that just happens every day. I did counts and sent to the city more than a year ago. In a 30-minute time, there was 120 vehicles passing both ways, east-west. That's only increased with the build that's happened in Tuscany, and that's also the units. And my concern there is the back and forth from Ashcroft to Tuscany, crossing Cody on 32nd Street. There's no stop there. And so the speeds are excessive coming out of Tuscany or vice versa out of our area into. And it shows me that many people are using it as a cut through. This road is a neighborhood residential street. The city's posted it at 25. You can't give any other name. It's not an artery. But there are people using it as a cut through, as a main street to make their ways between 47th, 35th, and where, and it'll only increase more with what's being built. We need deterrence to speed, impediments. And so the best, you've got options. You've got bumps, you have humps, you have dips, you have stop signs. Our neighbors to the north in the city, I go on a street and always tell people you want to get to our place, you go through 3 dips and 2 speed bumps. Okay, there's other streets passing by Lowe's and so on that you have stop signs going through that area. Another one between 4th Street and 10th Street on 63rd Avenue. It's a small residential area that's back there. But there's 2 stop signs that are 3-way stops, not even intersections, as well as a speed bump. So these deterrents can be done, and they need to be done in our association in Ashcroft Heights. So we're just asking our city management to please, it's been years now, please, let's do something, and we need to reduce the speed. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Rich Mazer. My wife and I live on Pleasant Acres. We came from Woodland Park about 10.5 years ago. We're on Pleasant Acres, and Pleasant Acres is a very narrow road. And it kind of does a L at the end because it got Pleasant Acres Road and Pleasant Acres Drive. Anyway, quite a while ago, my wife was going to get out of the car, and I had pulled her back in because somebody was speeding down. And we got Mark, and he got 25-mile-an-hour signs and children playing signs put up because we have children coming out of Darrow Road that either with their scooters or running or walking, they don't look. Children. And it's like people try to miss that light on 32nd. So they use our road to go around. And I even talked to Kim, the mail lady, and she says she doesn't understand why those people go down our road when all they got to do is turn left at the light or turn right at the light and turn left into the development. where all those houses are. And they come down our road, and my neighbor, we talked to quite a few neighbors about this. And some neighbors said that some people have been going down about 60, 70 mile an hour. And it's like they think it's a racetrack. And if there's people on both sides, parked, there's barely enough room for one car to go through. And it would be wonderful if we could have a speed bump on one side of Darrell Road and one on the other side of Darrell Road, because some of the people that live in Darrell Road, in those condos, they come down, especially this one Mustang. They scoot down the road doing about 50 and then turn into Darrell Road. But I'd say more than 50% or 60% of the cars that go down our road don't live there. And they're going pretty fast. And Judy and I are just worried about the kids, because there's quite a few kids on our road. One side is basically all people that own. The other side is mostly rentals. And, well, I don't have to tell you about that, but we're just worried about the kids. And it's like, I yell at people, slow down. And one guy, he had a big truck with a trailer, one of the big diesels, and he basically, when I said to slow down a little bit, he gunned it. I mean, there's young people walking their children down the road. Like the other day, last week I think it was, walking down the road with their little girl, about the size of that little girl, and this car went down doing about 50, turned around, and came back the other way. And when they came back, I asked them, how'd you like that speeder down there? And they almost got hit. And it's like, children don't look both ways. They just run out. And I've watched more kids run out. Cars on both sides. We really have a problem. Anyway, I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sir, could we have your home address, please?
1308 Pleasant Acres.
1308 Pleasant Acres. Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak on this item?
Yeah, it's
Perfect.
like beating a dead horse, but
No,
we'll get at it,
please do.
So,
Please do.
my name's Robert Allison. I live next to John and Mark and the crew. Sorry if I get emotional. When I get passionate about things, I tend to cry. My wife and I want to start a family, and we live on the corner right there. And when I grew up, I lived on the corner. And we ran circles around our house because there were speed bumps and stop signs, and that's what you're supposed to do as a kid, And John already made a point, he doesn't let the kids out front. Like, I didn't buy my house in Evans, so I couldn't let my kids play in the front yard. And I just don't believe that people in your position and the power that you have aren't willing to do something. I really fear the day that the worst happens. They talked about a light being hit. That family was in the backyard that day, and they tried to get pictures of whatever, but there were kids back there. They have 13 and 14-year-old kids. God forbid something would have happened that way. I mean, something has to happen, or else me and my wife already talked, we'll be out of here. I think Evans is a great place to live. I love Weld County, but I'm not going to stay here if something's not done. And I know John's in the same boat, and so are these guys, when they raised their kids around here, Tuscany wasn't there, all the other apartment places weren't there, so it was a good area, it's a great neighborhood. But as things develop, other things need to change as well, and with that needs to come some type of infrastructure with speed bumps and whatnot. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good evening. Pat Kelly, Ashcroft Heights, 3129 39th Avenue. You've heard the facts. You've heard what I wanted to repeat was what we feel like is a decent option worth consideration. I understand there's a difference between speed bumps and speed humps. I guess the humps are wider and the bumps are what's in parking lots. So the speed hump, we've heard opposition to it whenever we brought it up to city people about fire trucks, about school buses, etc. They're going them over them, other places, Greeley, Evans. I guess dips are another option, but that's part of drainage, and I don't know if we have that on that. But Ashcroft Heights, 32nd Street, again, you've heard the facts. Please do something. Doing nothing is not an option. And we're going to ask you guys to please help us out and slow it down. That's it.
Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address this issue? Okay. Well, going from here, let me just first off say thank you all for all being here tonight. I myself have two 2.5-year-olds, and I know that Councilwoman Castle has young children, Mayor Pro Tem has young children, and Allie Johnson has young children, so I'm right with you. It would break my heart, too, having this happen. I've driven that street exactly. I thank you for the gentleman and the young lady that brought this map up. It tells me exactly right where it is. I've seen people flying down that street, just like you guys all have. I don't live there. Councilwoman Castle would live the closest to this, so I'm sure she's seen it a little bit more than I have. But I have seen people flying down that street, so I am with you. I sympathize with you. And here's the best I can do for you right now. And Jim, I've never done this to you in my life, but you guys have 2 weeks to get us some options on this. So this can't wait. They got little kids out there playing in the streets. So we have our next city council meeting in 2 weeks. Nothing will be built then, don't get me wrong, guys, but at least we can have some options by then. Staff can tell us what could possibly go in there, what couldn't, what could work, what couldn't work. So I'm inviting you all back at the next city council meeting in 2 weeks from tonight. It'll be 2 weeks from Tuesday night, because we usually meet on Tuesday nights. Again, we won't have anything finalized then, but we need to get something done fast. I don't know if anyone else on council has anything to add there. Jim, I've never put a time frame on, but that is a dangerous, dangerous thing there. So
I just want to say that I commiserate with you guys. I live on the east side of town. We're having a lot of the same issues. So I've had vehicles rolled over into my property, at least 3 that I can count offhand. And so I think that maybe right now, too, that we need to add into that. We need to look a little bit more at some cracking down on speeding throughout the city.
Sure.
While we're looking at helping these people with their immediate problems.
yeah, and it doesn't make it any better for you guys. But like Councilwoman said, it is happening everywhere. Everybody just got heavy feet these days, which is unfortunate. Correct.
I live over by the Loaf and Jug over there on 32nd Street, and you take going down that way, 17, everything like that. We have the pedestrian crosswalk, all that stuff, the signs, and it's 30. You have people zip down that 70 plus miles an hour all the time. You try to walk across the street and you step out and you have to step back in because somebody's not paying attention to your zipping. So I feel you guys. I'm with you.
And I can't, I mean, just looking at this and hearing what you're saying, I have a 4-year-old and I have a 7-year-old, and they're always running around. And you're right, they don't look to see if there's a car. They don't understand those kind of things when they're playing. And I do agree that something needs to be done here. But I think also what this brings is a greater awareness is that when we have development happening, especially residential homes, we need to start thinking about those areas where families are concentrated, and to see, hey, this road has absolutely no stop signs. Like, we need to change that. So we need to ensure that when we have a subdivision coming in, that we take into consideration like speed, as well as adding specific deterrents to decreasing speed in specific parts of that subdivision. So things like this don't come up. And not only that, that's also helping with the safety of our community and also our children. So something that we definitely need to think about as development is occurring.
In the city that is growing fast, and particularly our area, and those of us who've been there 20 years,
There is an elementary school 3 blocks.
that's right.
Well, we'll take a look at it. I mean, I feel your pain. I know people even blow through stop signs too. I even stop from half the time where if they do, it's a quick roll, they keep going and then accelerate. So I know where you guys.
I have 2 roundabouts in my neighborhood.
And like I said, I'm not sure we'll be able to have the answer you're looking for in 2 weeks. But I want to make sure we can get that process going as fast as we can to see what all the options are.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you for your service.
thank you guys very much.
I did really quick want to say, I do live right off this pink line also. So I drive this every day taking my kiddos to school. And it is, I think the most terrifying part for me is when school starts and there's a bus stop there and there's always kiddos walking. And you're right, I remember maybe a week ago between Cody and Santa Fe, seeing the gravel tore up from a car running through there. And I won't let my little boys play up there. They love to go ride their bikes around and everything, and I keep them so close to home. But my other concern would be, as those curves, I feel like that's super dangerous, but I always wonder what happens when a house gets built right along that curve going into Tuscany and somebody blows through it. So I'm with you. I think there's a ton of risk, and I appreciate you bringing this to our attention.
On top of it, I mean, at the end of the curve, City of Greeley is going to build a park right there.
That's our park. I was just about to say that.
That's our park.
And so you're going to have even more foot traffic going down that street.
Yep.
Kids going to the park and whatnot. That's the main way to get there.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilmember Neal.
Thank you.
I've definitely noticed an increase in speeding and motorcycle racing up down 17th Avenue here within just the last month. And where I'm talking 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh, yeah.
So do you want us to?
Yeah, Chief Brandt. He's behind you there. Yep.
Right there.
I mean, now or?
Right now.
Yeah.
We'll be good. So.
Perfect.
And I do want to thank you all for being here tonight. That's what.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address City Council on any item not on the agenda this evening? All right, seeing none. Does anyone have any changes to the agenda?
No. Mr. Mayor, we'll see about adding an executive session to a third executive session to the agenda.
What other additions? I entertain a motion.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
I second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item, consent agenda. Item 1, approval of the July 20th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item, old business, public hearing. Consideration of ordinance number 747-21 and ordinance repealing and replacing chapter 15.20 of the Evans Municipal Code, the National Electric Code, second reading. I will open the public hearing and hear from staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, members of the council. This is the second reading of this consideration of this item as was presented at your last meeting. This is a very standard update to our electrical code, one of several building-related codes that we have to keep up to date with. This one has been, I believe, in operation for about a year now, and so many other municipalities have adopted the code, and for the most part, our contractor community is very familiar with this code by now. So tonight, of the code, since council heard a more extensive update last time, but we certainly are available for questions tonight.
Okay, thank you, Tim. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this item? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition of this item? Seeing none, questions of staff?
I have none.
Seeing no questions, I'll close the public hearing. Discussion?
Mr. Mayor, since I was not at the last city council meeting, I will excuse myself from the vote.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other discussion?
I have none.
Not entertain a motion.
I move to approve ordinance number 747-21 on second reading.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve ordinance number 747-21 on second reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item, new business. Public hearing, consideration of ordinance number 748-21, amending the 2021 budget, first reading. I will open the public hearing and hear from staff.
Thank you, Mayor. This item was also the subject of a city council work session on July 6th for a more elaborate presentation. Our city council finance committee also reviewed these recommendations on July 1st. I'll give the brief overview that this is a very common practice of once we close the books on a given year and we hear the audited financial statements, it's appropriate for council to consider what we call carry forward capital projects that as we budget in 1 year aren't planned to be completed in that full year. So we have to continue the budget, carry those forward. We also have kind of the second level, the second stage of what we have called our COVID pandemic budget recovery, where in April, council considered some very urgent requests that we had for current service levels. Tonight, we had, as part of this process, we're recommending many one-time capital requests to move things forward. Many of these things are deferred capital projects through 2020, but now that we've finished 2020 with a positive, or relatively positive fund balance, we believe that we can afford these one-time capital items and also any minor changes that have happened to the capital budgets. So now that I've probably given half the presentation, since this is the public hearing, I will ask our finance director to give a high-level overview of the budget recommendations that are outlined in council's packet. Take it away, Jackie.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Rudy, members of City Council. You said it perfectly there with the items included in this budget revision before you tonight. It does have all of the phase 1 and phase 2 recovery items. It is a little bit larger than would be our normal first budget revision of the year because we are incorporating both of those items. So all of the carry forward projects as is appropriate for us to reappropriate in the year, as well as those one-time spending projects as well. The ordinance lists out each of the funds impacted by the budget revision requests, and because it is pretty lengthy, oftentimes I go through them and list them out individually. Finance Committee has reviewed them as well as in detail at your previous work session, so I will save you the headache of going item by item. It does look like almost every fund is impacted at this point, including our impact funds, as we do pay out a few of those to the school district and the fire protection district, and making sure that we have appropriate budget to pass along those fees where they're due as well. And unless there's questions on any specific project, be happy to answer that. All of the items are listed in order of your staff report and on attachment A included in your packet tonight.
You all set? The public hearing, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this item? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to this item? Seeing none, questions of staff from council?
Have none.
I just want to, for the record, there have been no changes in any of this since our last work session. Everything's
That is correct.
It's still the same.
For our discussion at work session, we did include the one-time projects as well as the $125,000 for cybersecurity for us to be reimbursed through the ARPA funding. So those are included in the ordinance itself, but none of the projects or dollar amounts have changed from what we discussed.
I just wanted to, since we're not going through it line by line, I just wanted to get that on the record.
Thank you for clarifying.
Other questions of staff? I'll close the public hearing. Comments?
Pretty straightforward as we discussed in our work session back on the 1st of July, so I'm in favor of it.
I'm in favor as well. We saw all the numbers and all look good to me. So thank you, Laura, for bringing that up. There are no other discussion. Entertain a motion.
I move to adopt ordinance number 748-21 on first reading.
I second.
Motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 748-21 on first reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you, Jackie. Next item on the agenda, consideration of resolution number 19-2021, authorizing a Tabor election on November 2nd, 2021, and setting the ballot language. We'll hear from staff.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the next step in the now significant city council discussion. You've had several about the need for a new police station and and the possible options for funding such an improvement. As council determined, probably the best source of funding that we have is our existing sales tax on food. The sales tax on food was approved approximately 15 years ago by the voters, and it has very specific purposes that were approved by the voters. One of those purposes is for expansion of city facilities at the Evans Community Complex, which is this building. In our conversations about the police station, council has prioritized a site located at the corner of 42nd Street and 23rd Avenue. That site, of course, is not part of the Evans Community Complex. So while we feel that that use of those funds may meet the spirit of that sales tax on food, in that it is for expanding city facilities, it doesn't meet the strict language of that ballot measure. So for that reason, council has given direction previously to proceed with an election to be part of a ballot measure to be part of the November 2nd, 2021 election. At your last meeting, you gave notice to the Weld County clerk and also election official that we'd like to coordinate with them so that they would operate the election. This step tonight is one of our last formal steps to get this election going, where council would actually call for an election, for a special election, or for an election as part of the election in November. And you would also adopt the ballot language for the ballot, which we would then forward to the Weld County clerk. I'll note that the language in your packet, in your staff report, attempts to incorporate the language and the discussion, the change requested by the council when you had this work session that really relates to the last few words of the ballot language that are very much more specific, that this would be for a new police station. And with that, Mayor, that concludes our remarks, and we ask for your consideration of the resolution presented.
Thank you, Jim. Questions of city staff or comments? Go ahead, please.
It goes in there, you all know what it says, cost of constructing and equipping. I think we need to have design in there too. I would certainly hate for us to hire a designer and then somebody coming and saying, hey, that wasn't part of it.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing too.
I agree with that.
And I don't know, designing doesn't have to be the right word, but
right.
When we have, I think that we need to have in there because
I had a brief conversation with our bond counsel, who's also our election advisor on Tabor matters. And I remember that in that conversation, I shouldn't quote her too carefully, but that we thought that financing and costs of those things would likely cover design, but I appreciate your cautious question, council member. We can certainly bring that back to you. We have a little time on this.
And then also the operating kind of is a little on the fence for me, just because, are we talking about in the operation? I could also read into it that we are now going to finance our police staff with that. And anytime we need more policing, are we going to be taking it out of this fund where we need more streets or obviously speed bumps? I just think that the operating part for me, I know that we're probably thinking the operating, part as far as it going with maintenance. But as just a layperson reading it, I'm wondering if that's going to include staffing.
I think those are two great points. Scott, I'd like to ask you, would the design fall under that criteria already, in your opinion?
Well, I'd probably defer to your bond counsel. It's the financing of all these things. So it's the financing the costs of constructing, equipping, and I think that you could make a pretty strong argument that financing the constructing would also include the design. But we can certainly take it back to bond council. We do have some time, and just ask if they have any thoughts on whether we should add design and whether we should make sure it's clear that it's for maintaining the facility, not salaries and staffing.
It's our intent that if, the revenue were there, we should be thinking ahead to major capital replacements, so that we haven't done as much of, but and that could be covered by the operating and maintaining. But I certainly hear your point, and I understand that we have to think of how the voters see this.
I think, to your point then, Jim, I'm not opposed to that at all, being forward thinking in this, but then I would think it should say financing the cost of constructing, equipping, and maintaining ongoing operations or something like that. Because that's where it gets confusing to me. I looked at it and thought just general O&M for the facility itself, but what you're saying seems more ongoing, which I wasn't thinking. So, sorry, a little clarity would be good.
I agree with that as well. I think that the operating is kind of definitely raises question, and I don't think we should have something that may say that. I do like what Council mentioned. It's wording it in that way or some form that is okay with Tabor that kind of implies that.
Any other comments or questions? We have till September 3rd to get this on there.
Time.
So I say we table this motion, let staff look at that again, or what do you think?
Yeah, that would be great.
Thank you.
A motion to
We
table
need a
that, or
motion
what do we do
to
there,
table.
Scott?
Yeah, yes, please.
I'll just say it. I move to table resolution number 19-2021 as presented until
How long do you guys need on that, Jim?
Next meeting.
further in the meeting, for the next meeting.
A second.
A motion and a second to table resolution number 19-2021 as presented until the next city council meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item, public hearing consideration of new brew pub liquor license for Bricks, I hope I said that right, Brewery LLC, doing business as Bricks Brewery and Tap House at 3940 Carson Avenue in Evans. I will open the public hearing. Hear from staff.
Thank you, Mayor. As council may have seen, we do have an application for this business would be an extension of a business existing in Greeley, which you may have seen, Bricks Brewery and Tap House, and they're interested in, I believe, first manufacturing their product here in Evans, and then also potentially having a tasting room and some other brew pub activities. We have not seen red flags. There's no red flags to report here, but we did not receive the full background reports back from the state that should go along with the city council's consideration of a liquor license in time for this hearing. I believe there were fingerprinting issues. So for that reason, we recommend that the council continue the public hearing to August 17th, 2021.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this item? Please step up to the podium, state your name.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Tommy Dyer, one of the business owners of Bricks Brew and Tap. I appreciate y'all's time tonight. Partner over here, Brandon, is also with me. My father-in-law, who's a business partner, Phil, will be here for the next hearing. It's my understanding that we just filled out the wrong paperwork for the background check, so I just want to be clear on that, but we have all that new paperwork in processing right now, so looking forward to August 17th now, so thank you. And looking forward to bringing some business to the city of Evans and being a part of this community, so.
Great.
Thank
so
you.
much. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this item? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to this item? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to continue the public hearing for the liquor license application made by Bricks Brewery LLC, doing business as Bricks Brewery and Tap House, to August 17, 2021.
I second.
Motion and second to continue the public hearing for the liquor license application made by Bricks Brewery LLC, doing business as Bricks Brewery and Tap House, to August 17th, 2021. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, consideration of resolution number 18-2021 in support of the Division of Local Affairs Energy Mineral Impact Assistance Fund grant for the Land Use Code update. We'll hear from staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Council's well aware of all of the master planning work that the city is conducting this year. We're hoping to bring that to a conclusion at the end of this year. But then the real fun begins, because it'll be incumbent upon staff to implement all of the concepts that are the council and the planning commission approved for the master plan. And that means an update of our development code. It's important, we feel that it's important that we move quickly to bring those documents, our development code and the master plan, into sync with each other. We know that that's also a lot of work, and where the city has 2 planners in our community development department, including the director, who's busy with lots of different things. We feel that we're going to need some similar consulting help for that project. It's fairly customary for municipalities with these kinds of projects ahead to get some outside help, because we're just not staffed for that, to move that forward with any kind of expediency. I know our staff has talked with other communities. We believe, like Greeley, Windsor, Milliken, Johnstown, on what it costs them for their outside help. We think that that could be in the range of $180,000 over 2 years of work. Our staff, as you know, has been very successful attracting DOLA mineral impact grants for this work. And so that's what we're proposing to try to do again. Our director, Ann Bess Johnson, has had conversations with DOLA. We're hopeful that we can get this grant. So tonight, we're really just asking for your support of a resolution which is required by DOLA for the Mineral Impact Grant Program, so that we can hopefully attract the 50% funding. It would require us to plan to spend $45,000, up to $45,000 in each year, 22 and 23. So Ann is with us to answer any questions that you may have, but we're just looking for your resolution of support tonight.
Thank you, Jim. Questions of Ann or Jim?
No question.
I have to say, another grant. I'm sure we'll probably get it. We're really good at getting grants. Got a great team who does the grant writing, so hopefully we'll get it.
Any other comments?
It's a grant. Let's go for it.
Open grants.
There are no other questions or comments. Entertain a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 18-2021 in support of the Energy Mineral Impact Assistance Fund grant application, and to support budget allocation for a local match in the amount of up to $90,000 divided between 2022 and 2023 to fund the update to the land use code to reflect the vision, values, and strategies established in the master plan update.
Second.
Motion and a second to adopt resolution number 18-2021 in support of the Energy Mineral Impact Assistance Fund grant application, and to support budget allocation for a local match in the amount of up to $90,000 divided between 2022 and 2023 to fund the update to the land use code to reflect the vision, values, and strategies established in the master plan update. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item, consideration of master services agreement for the on-call traffic engineering services. Hear from staff.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll introduce this by saying that this is a contracting innovation that our city engineer, Mark Oberschmidt, has brought forward. We have 2 items tonight that are similar in their format, but they are for different services. These are for a couple services that the city uses intermittently, occasionally, when we need it for additional support on various capital projects. This item is consideration of a master service agreement for on-call traffic engineering services. So We have lots of talents among our relatively small city engineer staff, but traffic engineering is its own discipline, and we typically have to contract out for kind of spot projects. And I'll stop talking there, and I'll ask Mark to give a few more examples, elaborate a little bit on what that service is, a few examples of the kinds of things where it might be needed, and also give an overview of our bidding process and qualifications process and recommendation.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. As Jim said, my guys and myself, we're not traffic engineers. I know enough about traffic engineering to be dangerous, enough common sense to kind of read through the reports, but get into the modeling, it's not my expertise, and I don't have extensive experience in it. A traffic engineer would help us with operations of our traffic signals. They would help us with planning for traffic calming for all the things that we heard about tonight, and ways to traffic calm that slow the traffic down, not only from an educational standpoint, but also from a physical speed hump or whatever you want to call it standpoint, and signage and things like that. So, and the other thing that the traffic engineer could help us with is when we get very large development projects that have really detailed traffic impact statements, they help us with actually setting up the criteria as to what are the limits of the study, how far out do you have to look. The bigger the project, the further you have to go out to the different intersections. I can guess at it, but these guys, the couple that I'm recommending on Next Phase Engineering, between the two of them, they have over 60 years of experience. They've been doing traffic engineering their entire career, both in the private sector as well as the public sector. Their proposal, in my opinion, hit it out of the park because they concentrated on traffic engineering and told us solutions to potential problems that we have here in Evans in the way of speeding, in the way of traffic signal operations, in the way of safe routes to schools. They have that expertise. They've shown it in terms of all the projects they did while they were with the city of Fort Collins in the private sector and also with the city of Longmont. So with that, I'll take any questions, but I am recommending that we hire Next Phase Engineering on an on-call basis, and they can help us, as I said, with the development review. So the money for the projects would come from specific projects on the CIP side, but also on the development side, it would come from the chargeback. So the money is project-specific or through the chargeback. So I'd be working with Ann whenever there's a development coming in. If she needs some additional traffic engineering review, the chargeback comes in from the developer, and that money's in the coffers to pay for those services to review the traffic engineering report that the developer would submit. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you have.
Questions of staff?
More than you ever wanted to know about traffic.
Evan.
I think my question was already answered, which was, is this traffic engineer going to address an issue like we saw tonight?
Right,
So,
that's right.
That would have been my comment as well. I think this is great because I did mention that what our residents mentioned about the road having no stop signs or speed bumps and speed being an issue. I think having someone like this would definitely assist, like you mentioned, with new development, ensuring that stuff like that we don't miss those little pockets of areas where there can potentially be a speed issue with vehicles going in and out. So I'm for this.
I'm definitely for this, especially after we heard tonight. So when it says the mayor signed the service agreement, once I sign that, are they on call for us at that point?
Yes, sir.
So we can reach out
I
to
can
them?
start a PO tomorrow.
Perfect.
Perfect. Sounds like that's what you might need to do.
I think I need to be telling this in the morning, but I actually I have several other jobs that are ready to go, and I just waited for your approval before I cut them loose.
Well, we got to approve it still, but it sounds like
it's
going to
I
happen.
I'm waiting for your approval.
But even for next week, even if we just tell those citizens that, they see us doing something. We just hired somebody to look into that stuff, and that's good.
I will tell you that Martina, who is one of the owners, she has presented before the county, the cities. She understands people's issues with traffic, whether it be too much traffic, too little traffic, too fast traffic. She understands that, and she knows how to talk to people. She's a technically savvy engineer, but she's also very, very personal savvy as well.
When a group like this gets a job, like you're going to call them and say, hey, we want you to look at this street from the time they are assigned to that till the time they come back to recommendation. What is the time frame looking at?
Depends on the size of the project. And what I would do is I would create a scope, and then they would come back to me with a fee, and we negotiate the final fee. And as it says in the report, this is up to $50,000 per year. If we start exceeding that $50,000, I'm going to come back to you and report. And on a project by project basis, I'll tell you what those costs were.
So assume a project like this.
To evaluate, meet it on site, put together some research and some ideas, $5,000.
No, how much time? Yeah.
Oh, time? More than 2 weeks.
Of course, it's more than 2 weeks.
Probably.
I didn't give them 2 weeks that we have their answer. I gave them 2 weeks that we'd report what we're doing.
We're going to scale the answer to this. So you'll be able to have some conversations, look at the area together.
I'll call them on my way home tonight.
Talk about potential options for us. Just we need to have an update for those citizens.
Yeah,
just an update. I told them we're not going to have an answer for you.
Yeah, I will introduce them at the next meeting.
I know.
Yeah, and they're actually, I don't know what day they're scheduled to come, but they're scheduled to come because we have the guys who installed all the traffic boxes. They're coming up from Texas. I want to say next Wednesday, and Martina and Joe are going to come over. They were coming over gratis. They didn't even know they had the job yet. They said they'd come over.
Well, if this gets approved in just a sec, I think you should ask them to come to that next meeting.
I will.
Just even say to those people, look, this is what we're doing. Any other questions or comments?
None. Yep.
Fred?
Mark, I've driven around Fort Collins enough. These guys came from Fort Collins. I know they know where to put speed humps and roundabouts.
Yeah, I drive through speed humps all on my way home every day, and they slow me down.
Anyone else? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to award the master service agreement for on-call traffic engineering services to Next Phase Engineering in the not-to-exceed amount of $50,000 and authorize the mayor to sign a master service agreement.
Second. A motion and a second to award the master service agreement for on-call traffic engineering services to Next Phase Engineering in the not-to-exceed amount of $50,000 and authorize the mayor to sign the master services agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item, consideration of master service agreement for on-call geotechnical services. We'll hear from staff.
Thanks, Mayor. This is very similar in its format. One of the other services we need from time to time is geotechnical services. One of the things that this would help us address, and I know council has appropriately been frustrated whenever we learn about soils issues and things like that in our roads. This is one of the things I believe that this contract would help us to have that on-call resource for, instead of having to go out for bid each time we have a spot project like $5,000 level that you heard about. So with that, I would ask Mark to just elaborate if there's any other detail or ideas of this need, and then additionally talk through our bidding process and recommendation.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening again. So with this process, what I wanted to do when I put this out was have somebody on call primarily for the testing, because that's the one thing we have to do on all of our projects. And in some projects that are CDOT funded, there's a QA and a QC where the contractor does the QA, quality assurance, and the owner, us, does the quality control. And it is redundant, and in some cases it's cost effective, in some cases it's not. But a lot of our projects, we don't have that because they're locally funded. For instance, the parking lot. We're going to want to test the subgrade when we open it up. We're going to want to test the base when we put it down, and we're going to want to test the asphalt. I don't have that capability, so what I wanted to do was find a firm that had that capability, that was responsive, was more local. That did play into our decision, and also had the ability to get reports back quickly, because it doesn't help me if the contractor's done and gone and I haven't seen a testing report since they left. So these guys actually can tell me, if I'm on site, I'll get a thumb up, thumb down, but by the end of the day, they'll have it up online for me to check to see that things have passed or not passed. And I'm talking about Terracon. They're the ones that I'm recommending. We got 8 different proposals There were 3 that were in the running: rock salt, Terracon, and ground engineering. I've worked with all 3 as I'm working with ground out on 47th Avenue. They're working for the contractor, and rock salt is obviously doing our design. All 3 are very capable firms, but the one thing that stood out about Terracon was not only they're down in the industrial park, but their ability to have results back to me online essentially the same day they took the test. So we've got, we're going to have multiple small projects that will need the testing done, confirming, making sure that our concrete is adequate, making sure that the soils underneath the road are compacted properly and the base is compacted properly, because that's where the strength of the road comes from. It's not the asphalt. We are going to test the asphalt, but it's that underlying material that actually makes the strength of the road and makes the road last longer. They'll give us ideas on, for instance, we're fly ashing roads to add strength to the subgrade, but fly ash doesn't work in every condition. So their expertise in geotechnical engineering will allow us to make better decisions on our road designs. And what Jim mentioned earlier about what we've run into on roads that we don't know, we have the added benefit of later this year, we have A.G. Wassenauer under contract to scan our entire road network to come up with our pavement condition index. As part of that scanning process, they're actually going to be able to tell us, plus or minus a few inches, what the road consists of, how much asphalt, how much base, or if there's any base at all. In some cases, we found roads where it was strictly asphalt, which if there's any new roads built in Evans on my watch, they will not be a full depth asphalt. And with that, I'd answer any questions.
All right. Questions of staff? Or comments?
I have a comment. I really appreciate the proactive approach that we're taking, especially because there's specific nuances that can hold up a project. So the simple fact that we're doing this, I think it's great. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Just to be clear, you said Terracon's down the road. That's their office, or they're just doing a project?
No, they have an office here.
Okay.
Yeah, they've set up an office here full time. I'm invited down to go look at the lab. And I don't know when the day is because they're having CDOTs coming in and updating their certification. So I want to go down and watch that and meet the CDOT guys too, so that we know kind of what they look for. Because one of the requirements was that the company be CDOT qualified. So all the firms that applied were had CDOT qualified labs.
Well, I like it when a business is here in the city.
Always.
It makes them, in my opinion, a little bit more accountable and invested.
Yeah.
So that's good to know.
Mark, I'm very pleased to see that we had 8 applicants. So
Yeah,
must
I
have
was
been really interested in this.
I didn't think it, well, on-call is kind of good business for engineers. I will tell you that much, coming from the private sector.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, entertain a motion.
I move to award the master service agreement for on-call professional geotechnical testing services to Terracon and the not to exceed amount of $50,000 and authorize the mayor to sign master service agreement.
I second.
Motion and second to award the master service agreement for the on-call professional geotechnical testing services to Terracon in the not to exceed amount of $50,000 and to authorize the mayor to sign the master service agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item, reports. City manager, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one item that was announced in an email this past week, but in addition to National Night Out, which is great for cultivating connection among neighbors, I also really am getting a kick out of the use that we're seeing of that neighborhood party trailer, which is really, it's just great. I think it's a good time for that to be initiated. It was kind of set back a little bit during COVID, but the fact that we've had, I believe, 6 different neighborhood uses. This is a free trailer that's stocked with barricades to block traffic for block parties, tables, chairs, coolers. Really a lot of thoughts gone into it from our neighborhood services staff. We want to just keep promoting that it's available for people. We hope that you'll tell people that you know, because it's been great for facilitating block parties, and I know it's been used at probably a half dozen or a dozen other city events like National Night Out and other community meetings that have been held outside to help those be successful. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Jim. City attorney?
Just one item other than the executive sessions. I wanted to note for the record, just so it's clear, that council had scheduled a special meeting for 6:15 tonight. That was scheduled solely for the purpose of going into executive session if there was time before the regular meeting, and there wasn't sufficient time to do that. So that executive session, which was for the purpose of addressing issues related to the wastewater treatment plant, has been added to this agenda, just so that there's never any question about what happened to that special meeting.
Okay.
That's all I've got.
Thank you, Scott. Next item on the agenda is audience participation. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address City Council on any item? None. Next item is executive session.
Move to go into executive session to discuss possible acquisition of interest by the city of Evans in certain real property and discuss possible negotiation, instruct negotiation in connection with such acquisitions, and to receive specific legal questions to enforcement of the city business licenses and other related city code provisions, and to receive specific legal questions related to the city's wastewater treatment plant pursuant to CRS 24-6-402, Section 4, subsections A and B.
Second.
A motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you. We've been